Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. I'm Michael, and today we're going to be talking about Halo Infinite. More specifically, the things that I liked and disliked about it. Now if you're here, then that means you probably didn't like my other video where this was unscripted and had my ugly mug on the screen for the entire time. Well, if that is the case, then I really do hope that this video is for you, because here it is a bit more scripted with actual gameplay instead of having me ruining a great image for about 50 minutes. Quick word of warning, the video playing will not feature any campaign footage and will just be me running around the open world, because while this video will have spoilers, I still firmly believe that the story is just so good that you need to personally see it to get the full feeling as I did. I don't believe talking about it's going to ruin anything, but for the sake of spirit, if you want to avoid the spoilers, then do please stop watching this video and come back once you have beaten the game. We'll be here waiting for you when you get back, I promise. Alright, we all set? Awesome, let's go ahead and start with what I liked, or actually what I loved about the game. Firstly, I think the visuals are out of this world. They're just so freaking beautiful and visually appealing in just, I guess, every sense of the word really. And with the video comes with it sound. And I have to say guys, the audio work in Halo Infinite is really pushing things to a whole new level, and I really do mean that. Not only are we being given such a wonderful looking game, it is being paired with such a powerful set of sound, and it really does help make it feel so much more bigger than it probably is. I know I've never really been good at writing things, really I haven't, but if there's anything to take away from this, it's that the team really did go above and beyond with this one. And that's before we even get into the meat of the story. This is just the presentation. Presentation is key after all, and a good story really doesn't mean much if it looks like trash. And thankfully, 343i hit it out of the ballpark here. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the story. It's worth noting that going in, I was completely unaware of how exactly things would kick off. I was confident we would get a scene showing Infinity battling and holding off against the Banished, but to get the Infinity being completely destroyed and Chief being beaten so badly, I think it just goes without saying that this was a much better outcome than even I was hoping for. And while I might have the unpopular opinion with this one, I actually liked seeing Chief lose, and quite badly at that. If the last few games were building on anything, it's that Chief is in fact human, and that he's still trying to convince himself of that. So to me, losing as bad as he did shows he's still not invincible, and had it not been for the pilot, he actually would have died. I like that they're making Chief lose in some ways. Take like in Halo 4, the didnt composed the research lab despite Chief doing his best to stop it. He even failed to protect Cortana at the end and save her. In Halo 5, he was captured by rampant Cortana and almost kept as prisoner until he would be forced to relent and join her cause, which only failed due to Team Osiris saving Blue Team. And now here in Infinite, Chief fails to beat Atriox and nearly dies in the process. So even though this might be the unpopular opinion, I just like seeing Chief have to lose a little bit and overcome the adversity that's in the way. It seems like more often now than not, games are trying to make their heroes nearly indestructible, which, for me breaks immersion. And it's good that 343 is taking this path to make Chief a stronger character, but they're doing it by adding weaknesses. In Halo 1, Halo 2, and Halo 3, Chief was practically flawless, with a few minor hiccups that got in the way here and there, but now he actually has to be creative and work to solve his problems. He doesn't just do it automatically. It's not just a straight shot. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but if you guys agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Another thing I love, without a doubt, is the pilot. Guys, okay, let me just be clear, I don't cry, and it's very, very rare for me to cry on any given subject. If it's not related to my family or even any of my pets, there's very little that does actually get me to feel sad, even almost to cry. The last game to make me actually shed a tear was actually ironically Halo 4 with its ending. I think Spitefire, my friend, would recall me admitting to it because we always play the campaigns together and we usually always beat it together. So he might actually remember that happening, but it is true. Halo 4 had me almost crying because I thought it was a very powerful ending, especially because I knew the story behind Halo 4's development and the driving force causing it. That being said, the introduction of the pilot is probably the saddest thing I've seen in a while. A man who had a wife and a child whom he loved very much, and their fates we know nothing about. It's later revealed that he doesn't have anyone, or at least not anymore, which I'm gonna guess is implying that they're dead or they died. Now that could be either during Halo 4 during the attack on Earth with the Didact and his composing, or it could have been a little after Halo 5 when Cortana attacked Earth, which we do see in Halo Infinite. Either way, the opening is very sad, and later learning his past was also just really tugging on the heartstrings here, considering that I was determined to try to keep him alive and to see him reunited with his family, just to learn that they might not even be alive anymore. I mean, I'll admit it, I cried a little bit, but those tears were well earned. Sad stuff aside though, the pilot is probably the most human character I think I've ever seen in a Halo game. He's not wanting to fight the Banished, and he just wants to run away and go home. He knows the possible outcome, even if the Chief is at his side. He knows Chief lost once, and he knows it can happen again. He's scared, rightfully so if I might add. How would any of you react if you were put into his situation, floating in space alone for 6 months only to save the legend himself, and to be told you two are going to fight a literal army that destroyed the greatest UNSC ship in mere minutes? You probably would feel the same as him, and I really can't blame you or him for being afraid, which is why I like his character so much. He's the voice of reason against the stubbornness of the Master Chief, even if Chief is right in the end. He is the reminder that they are fighting against impossible odds, and a reminder of how terrifying the Banished really are. In keeping with the pilot, I have to say his breakdown after the crash landing and Chief finding him after destroying the guns is my favorite part of the whole story. I think it might be my favorite part out of every single Halo game ever made. It might not be the largest scene or even a very long one, but it hits so hard. It almost had me in tears again. Halo Infinite almost made me cry like 3 times, which is really impossible to do, but Halo Infinite managed to do it. I'm not trying to spoil the contents of this scene, so give it a watch and you will know why it is I love it so much. Next on the list is the world itself, the world that we get to explore and roam about. Not only is it big, but it is just beautiful. If I can say anything to any of the members of 343, I could only really say thank you. I can already tell that I will be exploring this world for God knows how many hours and enjoying all of it and everything it has to offer. I love the flavor dialogue that the NPCs say, like the grunts or the jackals, the skirmishers, the marines or the brutes. They all have such great lines, and as someone who does Halo RP, I always play as a jackal, I find them to be quite interesting because we've never actually heard them speak before, or, well, actually, to the best of my memory, I can't recall at all. I love the point system with the Spartan cores and stuff like that. I love the FOBs or the forward operating bases. I love the weapon variants. I love the collectibles, and I love the world itself. I know in my poll I said that my opinion might be a bit skewed because I'm a diehard Halo fan, and that is true. I believe that my opinion is skewed. I might be just fanboying over this entire game and having a skewed opinion, so that's why I made my poll. I wanted everyone to give their opinions to see how my opinion differed from yours if I was really being, I guess in a way, biased. But seriously guys, how can anyone not love this stuff? It makes the game feel so much more rewarding to find and unlock cool things and not have to rely on finding stuff off the ground. The assassination missions feel pretty good. Heck, I love the fact that there was a female skirmisher, which is unheard of I think of any Halo game. I really like the audio logs. One complaint I heard so many people talking about was, I think in Halo 4 and I think also in Halo 5, you needed to gather more information through other medias regarding the story, like say Halo Legends or like the Halo books and stuff like that. Or you even had to go to the Halo Wiki. And while I can see where that would be a problem for a lot of people, most Halo fans, again, this is most Halo fans are already involved with those medias anyways. They're already going to the wikis, they're already reading the books, they're already watching Halo Legends. So it's not like they're excluding many people by having those be involved in the story elements. If anything, It allows them to draw in more details and characters from other things because most Halo fans will know what's going on and be aware of what's being done due to being involved with other said medias. Halo Infinite fixes that minor issue because it looks like any and all knowledge is kept to in-game resources, audio logs in previous games being that main thing. So in regard to audio logs, I like the idea, especially because me and my friend Spitefire have been planning our own Halo game for quite a while, and one of the ideas I had a few years ago, like about 4 or 5 years ago, was audio logs, so to see that in action is only proof that my idea was really viable. I was actually kind of concerned for it. I was like, I don't think it'll be good, but to see how it works in Halo Infinite, I think that it is a very viable idea. We also had the idea for a blood-shaded Crimson Energy Sword, which also is in Halo Infinite, so that's 2 for 2 of our ideas that we lost. But it's still proof that not only does it work, it looks bloody amazing. And I think lastly, what I think we should be talking about is the weapon, or Fake Tana as I called her. I called her Fake Tana because she looks like Cortana, but she's not, so I called her Fake Tana. At the start, I really did not like her. I really didn't. I felt like she was like really airheaded and dim-witted to be taken seriously. I mean, in my defense, the idea of an AI with amnesia was pretty bad, you know, pretty bold step to take. But in the end, I think they pulled it off so well that it validates the entire thing. And by the point they even get to validating it, I kind of did start to like her. I think the idea of her being an exact copy of Cortana, with the only exception of it being as if they never met, like her and Master Chief never meeting, I think it's great, but it's only after they explain why it is they had to do it that way. Before, I was kind of confused to why she wasn't just a full copy of Cortana up to the events of like Halo 3, but seeing how they use this idea in Infinite, I actually kind of like the way they did it, and they gave her somewhat of a new personality. You know, something a little bit different, you know, a different flavor. If I'm being honest, I would much rather have regular Cortana back, but that's not happening, and this new one isn't actually all that bad. I think I just prefer the original since that's the one I grew up with, and that's the one that I really bonded with, like playing the games. That's the one I got attached to. So to try to see this other one take her place, I think that's just like trying to add a wedge. But I do like this other one. I just don't know if I like her more than the original Cortana. I think I actually kind of like the Rampant Cortana a little bit more, but that's kind of hard to say because Rampant Cortana, I can't go rooting for her. But, you know, we'll wait until the next Halo installment and we'll see. But for right now, I think this is a good one, and I think it's a good personality. With her having the amnesia and stuff like that, it does allow her to have a new personality, like I said. And I guess really it allows her to see things from a new perspective. I don't know, like, which we will see how that works, I guess, in the next installment. But I guess with all that out of the way, we can go on to the things that I disliked, which honestly, I don't even think that's an appropriate wording for it. It's more like the things that I was dissatisfied with, but I am okay with accepting, or that I can tolerate mildly. To put it simply, I think my biggest gruff is that Atriox is dead. And I'm just gonna ask why. I was looking forward to punching his teeth in, and then that was taken away. You're saying in 6 months after he beat Master Chief, he went from beating Chief to dead. Okay, well, what killed him? How did he die? If you saw my other video, then you'll know that I had a very big issue with this, and that's because Halo Wars 2 made him out to be like this unkillable foe that has never seen an equal before. Now to suddenly being a recruit that was just good at killing things for the Banished. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You can correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. And I know here in Halo Infinite, it was Atriox that founded the Banish, but how come Escharum, or whatever his name is, how come he's saying that Atriox is the greatest recruit he's ever found? It makes no sense. If Atriox created the Banish, then Escharum should be the greatest recruit that Atriox has ever found, not the other way around. I don't know. I might have missed something. I was speeding through the campaign, but I was paying attention to the best of my ability, and I think I might have missed something. I find it strange that 343 would make such a change, and honestly, I did really want more of Atriox. I wanted more of his character because I found him to actually be quite interesting. Now, at the time of recording this, I have not collected all the audio logs, both the UNSC and Banished, so if I'm missing anything regarding his death that's going to be found in the audio logs, please do let me know in the comment section below, as I do want to represent Halo in good faith, and I don't want to get any of that information wrong and spread around misinformation. It's just in my opinion, or at least what I've seen and what I've heard from the game, it's that Atriox is dead, we don't know why, and he was apparently a recruit for Escharum. No idea what that's about. It's a weird change and I just don't like it, but I'm okay with it. It's one of those things that's just like, I really prefer if they didn't change it. My second biggest gruff is how the Banished managed to destroy the Infinity in 4 minutes. While I get that the Infinity was probably ambushed and distracted, it makes so little sense on how the Spirit of Fire was able to outperform the Banished despite being such an older model ship, and one that was also originally refitted for military service, of which it wasn't specifically built for. It was a civilian transport ship, if I remember right, that was refitted for military service. It also bothers me that the Infinity, as humanity's greatest flagship, was destroyed in such a small window of time. I know that the point of it is to show how strong the Banished are, but I think it would have been a stronger and bigger feat if the Infinity had survived for, say, maybe 2 weeks and eventually lost the battle and got defeated. Again, it's so much larger than the Spirit of Fire and so much more advanced, and yet it lost in such a short time to something that it should have seen coming. I know I'm harping, I know I'm sounding like a skipping record, but I really did not like this detail, and I wish they would have changed it to be a bit more of a struggle instead of just a hands-down loss for the UNSC. That would also imply, I believe, that Chief lost to Atriox in less than 4 minutes. Unless their idea of disabling a ship doesn't mean completely destroying it, but taking it out of battle condition is it can't move and can't fire its guns, but there's still people on board. The way they make it sound is like they completely destroyed it and everyone on board in 4 minutes, which is a really hard stretch to believe. But if they're just talking about they disabled the engines and they disabled its ability to fight and then boarded it, 4 minutes is suddenly a little bit more believable, but I still find it quite a stretch that they couldn't fight for 4 minutes. Lastly, I think the other thing I didn't really like was the idea of the Endless. Now, before I get a bunch of hate comments or any such deal, let me just clarify real quickly what I mean by that. While I find the idea interesting, I think it's a bit far-fetched for the story thus far. Zeta Halo, to my knowledge, was built on the Ark during Halo Wars 2. We know that already. So the idea that there was some kind of ancient alien race on the ring is impossible to say the least. On top of that, the Endless Lady we fight near the end of the story claimed that it was a prison that was unjust, where they were not allowed to defend themselves, which makes no sense again because the ring was made during Halo Wars 2, well after the Ark exploded. I'm not saying the idea is bad, but to try and find some means of tying it into the current story is just strange to me, because what can be worse than the Banished? What can be worse than the Flood? Are these Endless evil by nature, or are they just wanting to be released from a prison they feel is unjustified? We don't really get an answer to that, and it would seem, again, I don't know because I haven't collected all the intel on it, but for me, they should have just kept all their attention on the Banished and their intentions to fire the ring. Though, like said, I do enjoy the idea that there's another foe to potentially face. I just think maybe they should have been kept out of the story and included in the next installment where more time could have been dedicated to them, and we get a chance to see them more fleshed out. But I think with that, this will conclude my rantings for now. I would like to thank you all for watching and making it to the end here, and I would very much like to hear your thoughts and opinions as well. Did you enjoy Halo Infinite? What did you like or dislike about it, and what do you think will come next? I look forward to discussing these things and more with you all, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody. Hey guys, so I know we already ended the video, but I had one more thing that I just wanted to talk about, because shortly after doing the previous recording, I went ahead and collected all the Forerunner archives, all 7 of them, and I gave them all a listening to, and I think I now understand something that might come back to bite me if I do not address it now. So right quick, what we're going to do is I'm going to let the clip play that I recorded, which will play all 7 of the recordings. And then we're going to address what it is that they are saying. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and let that play for you, and we'll be back right afterwards.
How many years have I been here now? 2,000 or 20,000? Longer? Does it even matter? Why did my makers entrust me with this installation? As its custodian, I feel there is much that I do not know, or that has been kept from me. Its history is complicated, constantly rewritten. But why? There is much to learn, and if nothing else, I have time. I continue to be impressed with the intricacies of this installation. Trillions of systems working in harmony, forever shifting, adapting, an ecosystem to preserve life, and when necessary, destroy it, for the greater good. As I explore this world, I find answers that only seem to exist to pose new questions. One thing is certain, this installation was built differently than the others. A myriad of Reformation spires can be deployed, indeed have been deployed when requested. To complete the circle. To ensure its inhabitants are preserved. Or perhaps I should say, detained. Assuredly, many before me have observed these crumbling artifacts, gazed at the landscape in which they sit. How did they feel? There is so much here that I would assume was interpreted as beauty. But perhaps not. What are these relics to the past? Are they a celebration? Or a warning? Symbols of hope, or something darker? Time continues to be on my mind. I now believe these relics to contain a warning. A message from the past. But from whom? And why? As I look to the sky, I am struck by a thought. This ring, a constant loop. Are we all fated to repeat the sins of the past? I am close to deciphering the runes. Perhaps I will learn who left them. My makers, the Forerunner's greatest fear was understood to be the great parasite. The flood. A scourge that almost wiped out everything. I now believe this hypothesis to be incorrect. Their greatest fear was, losing their power. The fear of a master who would become a slave. Enemy within. That is the meaning of the runes carved into this monument. These runes predate me. Older than even the Forerunners. Time moves forward and back again. I now see rings inside of rings. Great circles everlasting. Without beginning or end. Endless. As I say their name, I feel foolish, uninformed, misled. And I'm afraid.
All right, so we back? Okay, great. So, Despondent Pyre. I think what's going on here, these monitor reports are basically just recountings before the whole events of Halo Infinite. The monitor going around the ring, investigating and doing all that stuff. And that seems to make sense, you know, that's kind of what 343 Guilty Spark did on his as he went around and just monitored things, saw things, and was investigating things and all that other stuff. And that's fine. I think this is a really cool thing. But saying, have I been here 2,000 years or 20,000? Does it even matter? Well, kind of, yes, it does matter, because honestly, if 2,000 years, let's say that's the minimum, 2,000 or 20,000 max, that means that Zeta Halo is not the same Halo that was launched off of the Ark in Halo Wars 2. This is a completely different Halo ring, and that now begs into question, where is Anders in the ring she launched? That was the whole point of the ending of Halo Wars 2, was that she launched a ring, had a beacon on it, and was trying to get in contact with humanity to get help. So if Zeta Halo, this Halo ring that we are on in Halo Infinite, is not that Halo ring, then where is Anders? I don't know. And it does breathe, it does talk about the flood. It says, this is not the greatest fear of the Forerunners. It is them losing their power. And that is actually correct. They did fear the flood because the flood was a parasite that was wiping everything out, but they weren't necessarily afraid of them. Not at least not until the end, when they had to fire the rings and when they had to sacrifice themselves. Their greatest fear was losing control and not being able to have the mantle. This is something that every Halo fan should know, is that the Forerunners were supposed to have the mantle of responsibility, and they completely flummoxed it, and the flood happened and everything like that. But we also know about the precursors that was supposed to decide who can have the mantle, and they chose the humans, and the Forerunners retaliated, and they caused the precursors to go into hiding, which ultimately became the flood, or the great parasite. So we already know all of that. Are these endless, the uncorrupted precursors? Because it says on here that these rings, the little rings that you go and find on the Halo ring, it says that they are older than the Forerunners themselves. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that the Forerunners took, when they made Zeta Halo, they took these rings and put them on the Halo ring? Or was this Halo ring around even beforehand? I don't honestly know, but I just wanted to do this recording and just add this extra bit on there, because after collecting all of them and listening, I now suspect that this ring is not the same one from Halo Wars 2. And if it is, there have been some major changes to the storyline that do bear needing explanation. Where is Anders? Where's the Spirit of Fire? What happened to that whole plot point? Why did they change all of this? Who are the Endless? Again, I think the Endless should have been kept off of the storyline and just, added in the next installment of Halo, so that way they could be more fleshed out, because it doesn't make sense right now if the Endless are going to be some kind of new bad guy, but if these Endless are going to be the precursor, they should have been fleshed out a little bit more, at least in my opinion, that is. But I just wanted to add this. I know I said we were ending the video. We're ending it now. Sorry to drag this on even longer than it was already. Again, I will be seeing you guys in the next video. You all have a great day.